people are saying black groups, this black, and of course you're gonna have white people saying, well, why shouldn't we have white groups then?
Yeah.
You know, we're building something. We're replicating America, but we shouldn't be. We should be an example for America. We should be like, we're better than this, and we should be an example of what it looks like. So that's why I love your music and I love what you've done. You're an example of look what can happen when you have someone who's born British, black British guy who's gone through everything, but he's still got this beautiful. Hey, man, seriously, I'm sitting there waiting to speak to you. You know what? The funny thing is, man, you've had me waiting for quite a while. So I've been like trying to get you to do an interview for quite a while, and I'm still sitting. I'm sitting there 5 minutes going, is he coming? Is Matt coming? Finally, we get you here. Do you use Zoom a lot? Is that something? Do you used to use Zoom?
This is my first time on Zoom.
Oh, sorry, man.
Yeah.
I know. See, I know what it's like. It's crazy. The first time you're using it, you don't really understand. It's like, what's going on? It's a bit mad. I didn't want to ever use Zoom, but you know what? Got to the point where it's like, wow, I love it. I'm speaking to you. I've spoken to some fantastic people across the world.
Yeah.
You know, it's a pleasure to do it, and I can't. You know, I'm just like, you know, God is great for making this happen. So you know, big up to you for being here and you as well. How's life? How's first of all, how's the weather where you are?
It's hot.
It's hot where you are right now.
Hot. It's hot. Yeah, it's hot, mate. It's you know, it's funny. It's funny because when the weather's cold and everything, people are saying, "Oh, I want it to be hot. I want it to be hot." And now it is hot. People are saying it's too hot, and you know, so you always get people who are gonna fall on one side or the other, you know. But yeah, I'm sweating not because of the Zoom call. Let me stress, you know. It is.
Man, listen, there's no stress, man. You're speaking to me. There's no stress. You know, we're easy peasy. We're like, you know, we're fun guys. We're having a great time. But you know what? End of the day, why I've said this because right now it's raining. I don't know if you can hear the rain from my conservatory. Really? Yes, raining hard. So I'm not far out of London. It's pouring down the rain.
I'm up in South Yorkshire, so.
Are you? Yes, Yorkshire. Wow.
Yes.
So what's it like in Yorkshire? I got a brother that lives in Yorkshire.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I don't see enough of him, to be fair. I mean, I've got to kind of reconnect him a little bit. But yeah, he's in South Yorkshire. I used to pop up to I don't know, Doncaster. I used to go up Doncaster.
It's up the road, but yeah, it's nice, you know. The scenery around here, some of this, wow, it is really. It's quite breathtaking because sometimes you don't think that you would get that kind of scenery in London or I mean, even some of the scenery in London where I'm originally from, you know, you go out into Essex and stuff and, you know, Kent, Surrey, and it's like, wow, some of the scenery is quite breathtaking. You don't really expect it. And I think the same up here, actually. I didn't quite expect to see some of the scenery that is up here, you know. It is amazing, and sometimes you don't realize what's on your doorstep. Sometimes, you know.
I can imagine. And more importantly, I've actually driven through a lot of those areas, and I know what it's like. And you're looking at the sheep on the other side, thinking, "Wow, this is amazing." You would love to the farm and that kind of stuff. But again, let me ask you as well: COVID. How did COVID affect you?
Well, you know what? Work-wise, I was working in Peterborough. And obviously, I had to go through the whole furlough issue. It was, I don't know how you found it, but I found it really eerie in a lot of ways. In the sense that you'd be driving down the road. I mean, I would do a lot of motorway driving. I'd drive from Peterborough up here and to Rotherham and back. And on the motorways and on the A roads, so quiet. It was a very strange time, that first lockdown, especially because no one had really experienced that before, you know. So, and it was almost something like if someone had said to you 2 years ago this was going to happen, and pretty much the whole country was going to be, you would have probably said, you know, you're watching too much Walking Dead, or you know, you're watching.
Definitely I started watching Walking Dead.
Really?
Yeah, because I was like, I need to kind of understand, what's the world going to look like? And I wanted to start. I got to watch Walking Dead. Obviously, thankfully, we've come out of it. You didn't feel like it was ever. We didn't feel like it was ever going to come out of it. People were saying Boris Johnson's going to just take us further and further into it. And so all the time, everyone's like, but so many things that people said have been the total opposite. Look at today with hydroxychloroquine with Trump. And it was like, everyone was saying that everyone taking it because there was that woman in America, wasn't it? I think she wasn't American, but she went to America from the Caribbean. Some black woman from the Caribbean who was a doctor or something or scientist who came up with this. So this was definitely something that you could use to cure COVID. Everyone thought absolute nonsense. Science was saying no, it's totally. We've shown it's been trialed, tested, everything else. No one believed a word of it. And today they're going, oh, guess what? It actually works. So it's it's hard to. No one knows what's going to happen, and it's quite frightening the fact that we don't know. But anything with the music industry. But one thing we do know is definitely going to happen is you're always going to make great music. You made some great tracks, obviously. So we're going to talk about stuff in the interview and have a little discussion about it. I'm glad I'm glad you come through COVID because obviously it's been a crazy time for me with COVID, but that's life. But let me start with a question for you, okay?
No problem.
If you could imagine a different 2020, what would it look like?
Well, I think a different 2020. I think relating this to music first, because
relate to yourself. I want to think more about yourself. How would it have been for you?
See, I look at it this way. I saw a lot of positives in 2020, despite the lockdown, in the sense that a lot of people started talking to each other more and started connecting more because in a way they were kind of forced into that, which I think was a good thing, in a lot of ways. You saw people being in certain aspects being a lot kinder to each other. So it has ran through my head in the past. In an alternative 2020, would that have happened, or would people have gone about their business and been a bit more ignorant of each other, or did COVID and lockdown actually bring certain aspects of society together? I like
that. I like your thinking. So it's like you're basically saying at the end of the day, it's like it's an odd one. Do I really want to change 2020? Because there's so much good that came out of it as well that you wouldn't really want to change. So I mean,
people would end up helping people who they wouldn't necessarily help. They'll probably just walk past them on any other given day. So I think out of anything that's bad, there's always something good that comes out of it. I mean, COVID was, you probably can't get a more extreme situation than what we went through, or what the world went through, and then still going through. But I definitely think, if 2020 was a normal run-of-the-mill year, would society be the same as it now is? Because I know a lot of people have now made friends and acquaintances that they would never have probably dreamed of. But like I said, it's kind of concertinaed people into a certain, into a certain area. So yeah, I think that's quite interesting. It'll be interesting to see when we come out of COVID and lockdowns, and whether it will then plateau and if it will revert back to how it was, or if people will then say, you know what, we came through this through adversity, and I'm now look at my life a little bit different, because I know I'll look at my life a little bit different. Like I said, I don't think anyone ever really envisaged would ever happen. I never in my lifetime I would see anything like this.
It's made us it's made us recognize our vulnerabilities. It's made us recognize how fragile we are, how human we are, and you can't really plan anything, you know, because anything can happen. Definitely.
Yeah.
So I know that. But anyway, I want to go back to your music again because this is a very exciting thing for me because we've taken a while to get here to have this interview. So I want to definitely talk about some of the stuff. I found you, and obviously people want to know a bit more about you. I found you on Facebook. So obviously, loads of artists on Facebook. I came across your music on Facebook. There's one particular track that I came across, Portals. And that was the first song I came across of yours, and I was like, wow, I absolutely love that tune. I love the video. Yeah. I love when it comes to dancing and music, and I make my own videos. So I kind of, there's certain things I'm like, wow, I love the video, love the connectivity with the music and the movements. It was so beautiful, so serene and unusual. And to be absolutely fair, it's not anything I've seen currently a Black producer or artist has done. Okay, that's why it was so powerful for me. Your track work on you as well, very atmospheric music. A lot of your stuff reminds me of Portishead. So when I go back to think, okay, it's kind of a Portishead. You may not have that connection. I know because you mentioned it being, but you've got influence from R&B and from Bowie and Prince. But I just thought this is harking back to the 90s a bit, with a bit of the electronic music going. That's why I consider it very alternative. But where do you get your musical ideas from? Where does creativity come from?
Yeah. Well, Portishead, Dummy, wicked,
Yeah, absolutely.
Proper album, yeah. So yeah, I mean, growing up, I had a lot of influences. Like you say, Bowie, Prince. Prince was my biggest influence, I would say, growing up, because to me, he was like the ultimate. But my it's strange because I can be at work or be on, driving or something, and I'll either hear a line of something, or something on the radio, like they could be talking about something, and I could hear a quote of something. And I'd have to stop the car and put it in my notes, So I've always, you can't
memorize it till you get home.
Exactly.
Or pull the car.
So
over. Pull the car over, love.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. You just push to the side, do your note, and then drive off again. So I think that for me, loads of different stuff spark that create this spark. So yeah, it could be a single phrase. It could be sometimes I will get a melody in my head and I'm thinking, yeah, that would work. Or more often than not, it'll be a beat. I'll think of a beat and I'll be like, yeah, that is, So I'll have to put the beat down and then work, and then everything kind of falls into place after that. So creative wise, I I get loads of influences. I really do. I mean, and we want to talk about Ruby Bridges. That was one of those situations where I found out about this lady, and straight away I had 2 songs straight away, just like that. You know,
you wake up in the middle of the night, like kick your missus out of bed and go, look, I've got to get this. Got to record this. Like,
well, you know,
oh, come on, you're singing a song while I'm sleeping.
well, yeah, you know, sometimes I do wake up and I have to reach for the pad, you know, and write something down, because it's, you know, the one thing I've learned, you've got to strike while it's fresh, right, while it's there, you know.
Fabulous.
You know, because otherwise it will just go in that spot.
Or you just won't get the whole idea. Then you start adding stuff. Right. You've lost the beauty of it, and you've added something else, and it's not exactly what it would have been. I get where you're coming from.
Yeah.
How would you categorize your music? Because they're talking about this stuff, but how would you actually categorize? Are you someone that's very eclectic, or would you have a style and say this is the style of music I'm doing? Is that where are you at with that?
No, I would definitely say I'm eclectic in the sense that when I started actually writing and recording music like properly full on, I originally started off with I used to call it electronica. You know, it would be usually kind of hip hop electric beats, and then the melody would be on top. There wouldn't necessarily be any lyrics. I might use the occasional sample in it, but predominantly it was electronica. And I kind of found that niche, and it kind of worked for me. You know, I had a load of ideas now. I've got a lot of like my first couple of albums, that some of them I've just never released, but that was in Atlanta.
So I lost you there. So there was a bit of a glitch there. Must have been headphones causing it.
Got you. No worries.
God's sake, man! It was like I'm sitting there going, "This guy's giving me some magic here," and I mean, I want because it's like what you were saying to me as well. It was, it was like so few people from what obviously maybe there's more and more artists that are like that now, and thank God. But so few people are doing that, are able to be eclectic, able to create, to be influenced by so much variations of music. You've done something which very few people are doing right now, especially, I've got to be honest, as a Black artist. We see there's a very narrow scope for Black musicians now. In America, very different. Music's music, they can grab from wherever. But in the UK, we've lost that. So you've come from a generation that's really, where there's like, I don't know, a melting pot of creative genius that we're probably never going to see again.
Well, do you remember Omar? Do you remember when Omar?
I remember Omar. He's part of the British Soul Collective. I've not personally met him, but I see a lot of his videos when I'm looking at what Donny's up to, because Donny and Noel McCoy are constantly doing stuff with Omar. So I get to see his stuff. So yeah, I definitely know Omar. Yeah.
I mean, when Omar, I mean, there's nothing like this, and when all that first come out, when teenagers at the time, it was like a breath of fresh air. It was like, my God, this man is like, I mean, a lot of people would just automatically class his music as soul, but I didn't see it just as soul, because he did put a lot of different stuff into his music, and I always remember that thinking, this guy, he's bringing everything to the table. He's not just settling for, because I think see, to me nowadays, a lot of R&B, you can put pretty much anyone's voice. There's so many artists who are great singers, but the R&B tracks that they're singing on are so generic in many ways, and that I think that is. I mean, that's kind of sad, because I mean, they're great artists, but you could throw a blanket over them sometimes, and
it's because the production isn't the right production. And obviously, we talk about Omar, the production. Like you said, it was unique. It was something else. It was fresh. But that's a lot of great artists. They've always had the producer is magical. You know, so whether it's Omar producing it, but somebody else has connected with that. Look at Seal. I mean, come on. Look at Seal. That was Seal. He had an incredible producer. That's what made Seal. It wasn't just about the songs. It was that balance of the producer as well. You've got to get that right. You know, so it's very important. But obviously, I said to you, a generation of great acts like yourself and people that can grab anything and make something beautiful out of it. We're losing that. And that's why, for me, it was so special, because when I heard your stuff, I was like, wow, you know, this is a UK artist doing something really fresh. And I really implore everyone to check out your stuff on Clusterview and, you know, or on YouTube or wherever it may be, because it is special. And I know you've been getting lots of your streams have been going up. People are seeing it and getting it and recognizing it as something really unique there.
Yeah, it's mad, because I thought would happen, you know. I just automatically assumed that, you know, some people might like my stuff, some people wouldn't. You know, it's a much of a muchness, isn't it? It's, but I think when you make music predominantly for yourself, you know, I think if you set out to make music with the intention of, you know, doing X, Y, Z, it's not true, you know. So the fact that then people started picking up on like stuff I was doing, I was like, well, this is just like a bonus, you know. And you know, people like yourself who have been really appreciative of, you know, of what I've been doing. It's like it is a bit overwhelming sometimes, because you think, you know, I you know, when I look at my stats on, you know, the distribution side of it, and I see people in Azerbaijan listening to it, and, you know, people in Canada, people in Holland, people in Africa, people in China, Australia. It's like, you know, it's when you realize just how universal music, you know. And I've always thought, you know, that is very important. Anyway, to me, music is very, very important. How it can transcend color, race, creed, religion. It can transcend all that, because if someone likes a song, they like a song, you know.
Definitely.
There's no song that targets any particular person, any particular creed, race, religion. There's nothing, you know. So yeah, I think for any artist out there who are thinking of, you know, making a go of, you know, their music, I would just say, make sure you do it for the right reasons. Do it for you. Do it because you don't do it and say, yeah, because I want to do the next X, Y, Z. You know, if it's good and people appreciate it, all that stuff will come. You know.
I love that. That's fantastic advice. You know, and I garner so much. That's the great thing about doing these interviews. I absolutely garner so much. It's like, because I'm, you know, I've got my own ideas, and I'm, you know, of the world, what I see, but I'm learning from people who, and so anyone watching this stuff is going to learn, because I'm learning, going, wow, and people will see me musing as, because I'm like, this is like, yeah, this all makes perfect sense. You know, why can't people see that? And that's right. Is if you can please yourself, then that's at least that's a great start. There's always gonna be people that are gonna connect with you and understand what you're doing.
If I get your attention, yeah, I will complete my mission. Ooh, baby, you're delicious, yeah. You have made me ambitious every time I need you, baby. Know you want it, yeah. That would be more than friends. I will kiss and leave you in a trance. It's a kind of a break. It's true, I like you, but I never tell you everything what I do. Make me feel an idiot. I'm a patient, but I lost my limits. Yeah. Oh, baby, tonight I will call you
that note, I want to ask you, so what's behind the name Cakes? That's an interesting one, because that's definitely, you just pull that one out from, that's yourself doing something. Cakes music. What's behind Cakes music? Because I know it's not about the fact that you like roly polies and, you know what I mean? And sponge, you know, like raspberry sponges.
I'm a good cook, man. That's what it is.
Is that what it is?
No, but what it is, it's quite funny because what it was, I was in Atlanta for 3 years. I was working at Home Depot, and for some reason, one of the ladies I worked with, she was coming in the morning and she would say, "Oh, Matty Cakes, Matty."
Wait, you say Atlanta? You're talking about Atlanta, Georgia?
Yeah, GA, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I was there for 3 years, yeah. And she would come in and she would be like, "Oh, Matty Cakes, Patty Cakes," and she would always do this rhyme. And then everyone just started calling me Cakes. And, yeah. And then when I started doing my music, I thought, that's not a bad, that's not a bad name, you know. So
was that a black woman that called you Cakes?
No,
it wasn't. Because that kind of, it's like a pet name that someone from the Jamaican community would call somebody.
Right. Yeah. But no, it just kind of stuck, you know. And then I was kind of thinking of like little taglines I could put on my website and stuff, and I thought, Cakes, making beats and creating cooking beats and all that. And I thought, you know what, that actually kind of is not too shabby. So so yeah, it just kind of stuck. And then obviously when I started my website and everything, and Cakes music just kind of followed on from that, and it's Cakes music 13 because the 13 for some reason, I mean, I was born on Friday the 13th.
Oh, okay.
So I'm always waiting for a piano to fall on my head or something, that's never happened yet. So I always use 13 because people say it's an unlucky number, but for me, it's not, so it's funny. Yeah, there are always little stories behind people's, what kind of names they use, and that was mine. It was just just something that kind of stuck,
Well, it's a fantastic reason why you got the name. Now it makes more sense. But it was like just something. It was like, well, that's a bit unusual. I don't know if you were kind of representing some, like you were behind. There was some kind of cake company that's going to be benefiting from some promotion at the end of all of this music you're making. Or you might. You said you might have go make it. But it's great to know something different. It's arty farting, fantastic. But again, but it's something I want to come to you about. And this is basically about, we have covered about, the idea of people fitting in certain boxes, doing certain types of music. And, when I'm going to the idea of stereotypes, as a black guy, I'm talking about myself too, as a black person, people kind of assume, well, in the UK, it's not about a black person, but in the UK, more importantly. And I could tell you stories, dude. I've been places where I've done shows and people were like, rap. Americans saw black and me on the stage and were like, you should be rapping. So it's not just from, from white people, it's from black people. We like, why aren't you rapping kind of thing? What actually made you think, you know what, I'm going to be alternative? Because it's a big leap. It's a big leap. As a black person, it's a big leap to go, actually, I'm not going to do what everyone wants me to do. It's almost like a statement.
Yeah.
What made you decide, I want to make a statement and be like this different guy?
Well, you know what? I think one of the main reasons was I was looking at the music that was like around current music, and I kind of realized that music, so in the last decade, wasn't, like you said, that artists weren't really taking a risk, and I always think creativity, in a creative sense, taking risk is what it's all about, You should never sort of just, I'm going to go on the safe road, I'm going to create a nice R&B tune, and nice lyrics, a nice voice over it, and done. No, I mean, going back to Prince again, when I first listened to Sign of the Times, which I still think is his best album, he would do things like, the first time I heard Sign of the Times, I honestly thought, what a load of rubbish. He's changing tempo halfway through a song. He's doing absurd key changes, you know,
which only Prince could do, which only he could do.
Yeah. But it was like, but I've never heard anything like
Him
that.
and probably Freddie Mercury, because the Queen did a lot of this. They were key all the time. Like some of 3 or 4 key changes in the song.
And you think, what is it?
The geniuses, they're creative geniuses. That's why.
Because I mean, I took piano lessons when I was a kid. So you're very rigid in certain, you know, on how you learn how to play the piano, you know. So when I heard this music, it kind of flew against everything that I'd known, you know.
Absolutely,
So when it came to my music, I thought I want to fly against what people's perception, like you say, people have a certain perception of you, you know. I used to act when I was a teenager. I used to do a lot of acting on TV and stuff. And I'd go for audition. Yeah. And I went for an audition once for, if you remember, Rumbelows, going back a bit now. But,
Rumbelows. I don't think I must have been out playing football when that was on.
Well, I'll tell you, man, I went for an advert for Rumbelows, which they used to do like electrical, like washing machines, all this kind of stuff. And I walked into the audition, and the first thing they said to me was, "Can you break dance?" And I thought, "What's break dancing got to do with an advert for washing machines and everything?" So like you say, it's people have a perception, have their own idea of what they expect you to do.
Well, the thing is, if you were doing acting at that young age, you were one of the lucky people and one of the smarter people. Was that down to your mum getting you into acting, or was it just something you wanted to do?
That was actually quite funny, because what happened was this is gonna be a bit embarrassing, but my drama teacher, Miss Gibson at school, I had a bit of a crush on her at the time, you know.
Was that sort of...
Yeah, one of them.
Very perfectly natural.
Yeah, perfectly natural. But then she started saying, you're actually quite good at drama. You know, I think you should go for a few auditions. So I did.
You're very good at chatting her up.
Well, you try at that age. Yeah, you try your best at that age, didn't you? And so it ended up snowballing. You know, I started working in theatre, and loads of TV work. Did a film, children's film, and everything.
Wow.
Adverts and all that kind of stuff, modeling after it was finished, and then knocked it on all in the head. So that was my first love, really, acting. But then obviously the music came much later. So when I say about taking risks and everything, I think a lot of that came from doing my acting, because I would see a lot of actors doing work that people would think that they would do. Like, for example, I was in the first version of Macbeth that had black actors. Brian Bovell, Brian Bovell, you know, and
but I know Brian Bovell.
No way.
Yeah. From Brixton, isn't he? It's from Brixton.
Yeah.
Yeah,
he was in that version of Macbeth that I did, and I remember at the time people were like saying, "Wow, Macbeth with black actors," you know. It was like a big thing, and I remember thinking, "Wow, you know, these actors are really taking a risk, because they know that they're going to get, you know, there's going to be a lot of publicity about it, and not all of it's probably going to be positive." I know that there was a TV show the other day that I still need to watch. It was Henry VIII is one of his.
Yes, the Tudor. Yes.
Yes.
Gosh, I know Anne Boleyn.
That's it. Yes. Yes. I was listening to an interview with the actress who played her, and the guy was saying, you know, you obviously realise that you're going to get. There's going to be some criticism because you're a black actress playing Anne Boleyn. And she was like, you know, as soon as I was offered the part and I read the script, The only thing she could see was that she was perfect for the part. She didn't see the fact that she was black. The director didn't see the black. You know, the director just saw her and said, "Yeah, that's my Anne Boleyn." So I think taking risks and not pigeonholing yourself into any one category, to me, is very important, because it also shows your individuality as a person. You know, against the fishes almost. You know.
That seriously, that again, the traits that you're talking about are things that, you know, young people really should be influenced by. This idea of, you know what, can we do things outside the box? Why are we limiting ourselves in society? Do you know what I'm saying to you? We shouldn't be limiting ourselves, you know, because I'm supposed to be this person. That's not who you are. Because we know the media puts us in these boxes. That's why it's so great that film was made, Anne Boleyn, the black female Anne Boleyn actress, because it's like the media's going, okay, actually, we've been doing a lot of this playing safe too much, putting you in boxes and saying you've got to stay in those boxes. Maybe it's just try something different. I know it's difficult for the British public who are used to, because that's their preserve, the royal family, the history. So to them, it's like, oh, come on, you're tampering with our history. But at the same time, it's like there's a reason behind it, because like, well, we've got to start thinking outside the box, and we've got to get young people, especially young black kids, to think outside the box. Because if not for doing so, we're going to have the problems we're having in the States, where they're locked in those states, they're locked in those times of mindsets. They don't believe there's any opportunities for them. They're not going to ever see themselves in anything else. So I love. So I said to you, it's unique. When I say unique, I think it's more of a generationally unique, to be fair. I think, because obviously I know we're probably born from around the same generation. Now, just to give a people, you know, because I'm in my 40s, let's have let's go more even closer about it. How would you describe your childhood?
You know what, my childhood, I was born in Forest Gate.
That's in London. It's Forest Gate in London. Where's Forest Gate?
East London. East London. Sort of not far from West Ham football stadium. Grew up in Bow, sort of in the sound of Bow Bells, kind of thing. So growing up around that time was strange times, because you had the National Front, which was pretty big at the time.
We all know the National Front.
You all know. The National Front.
You know, we have the Skinheads. You know, people talk about Skinheads. So again, for me, I just knew Skinheads as being, you know, really, you know, dangerous people. Like we see there's a different type of skinhead, you know, with a kind of ska music, two-tone, all that kind of stuff. But there wasn't, for me, the only skinheads I came across were people that wanted to kill me.
Yes.
So we're talking about the same type of people right now. Okay, carry on.
Yeah. So growing up around in that area around that time was quite challenging. Obviously, mum and dad had come over from, you know, the Windrush generation, and predominantly we kind of kept ourselves to ourselves. You know, black families around that time would keep, you know, sort of form little communities, and sort of, you know, keep themselves social within that community. So that's what me and my brother was, you know, that's how we was sort of brought up. We wasn't really allowed to mix outside of home. Once we got in from school, you know, it would be, you know, schoolwork, get yourself washed, dinner, you know. It was none of this, you know, okay, I'll go out for 3 hours, and no, that just.
But you're lucky. I went out for 3 hours. I went out and played football, or was fighting some other kids, or being, you know, whatever's going on. It was just madness. So you were lucky. You were sheltered from that madness.
Yeah, it was.
I
think mum and dad tried to shelter us as much as you know they could. Obviously, we would go to church as well, which was a big part of mum and dad's.
Of course.
So it was church as well every Sunday, twice on a Sunday, sometimes during the week as well. So, but having said all of that, my mum and dad were also very keen to make sure that, you know, we weren't so insular that we didn't appreciate, you know, white culture, Asian culture, you know. So, so, you know, me and my brother, we did have, you know, a lot of friends at school who, you know, were from other races and other cultures, which.
So you integrated, in other words, you integrated.
Yeah, integrated, you know.
Just like me, I integrated with everyone, wherever you were, whatever you were, we would integrate. So we kind of got very, again, that's the whole point. That period was a period where integration was kind of normal, or at least people were trying to. You might have had the people like the skinheads trying to stop you from integrating, but but friendships happened at school, didn't they? You met some white kid at school or white brother and sister, you know, and you became friends with them. And even though they knew that walking home meant that you might get, you know, the black kid, you being the, you know, black brother, might get some trouble. But the fact is, they were like, you know what, you know, I like you, you know, and I want to. So you just hid together and just try to escape the skinheads.
That's right. Yeah, that was. Those were times, man.
Oh God, I wouldn't even say to people, to everyone watching this video, I wouldn't even tell you how scary or how horrible that time was. But the fact is, even during that time, beautiful moments, you know, great friendships were had with other people of different nationalities, even though people was trying to stop us from doing it. I think now, do you feel that today that we're seeing a change in that? More people are kind of going off into their own groups rather than wanting to integrate more.
That's a very good point, actually. I would like to say, in an idea, you know, in all honesty, I would like to say that people are integrating more, but in reality, I think for some reason, and I can't quite put my finger on it, that it almost seems to be sliding back a bit. And I mean, you know, this comes into the realm of, you know, Black Lives Matter movement as well. But it's a very good point, because up until a couple of years ago, I really thought that there was real progress being made, you know, and you know, and then it's something I've really thought about a lot as to what has been the catalyst for. Does seem to be a slight backsliding, and it's strange, because you kind of think, me personally, I don't feel anyone is born a racist. You know, you're born, you're a baby, you know, all you want to do is be fed, burped, and poo, you know, and that's about it. You don't think for a minute that the baby in the next cot to me is any other color than me, you know. So I've been trying to figure out why there seems to be more hatred appearing lately, you know. So as much as I would love to say that things are getting better, I think in certain aspects things are getting better, but I think also in certain aspects things are beginning to get worse. But the only way you're going to progress is to have these open conversations. That's why I really enjoy your interviews, because, you know, you do ask the questions, and, you know, people you interview do give you, you know, their thoughts and opinions. And I think that's really important, because the more you talk, the more people talk about these subjects, the better the world will be, you know. If people keep it all in, and, you know, and don't want to, you know, I don't want to talk about that because, you know, I don't want to upset, you know. And, no, you need to have a conversation, and you know, I really do appreciate these interviews, because, you know, it's very important. It's very important. So I think you know, your childhood always influences your future as well, you know. So I think the more people can nip this kind of these issues in the bud from the offset, then it bodes well for the future.
Oh, well, everything you said is perfectly true. And one of the things that I feel, I talked about your child, and it was very relevant because we have a very similar, not similar child, but we experienced certain things and we knew certain things and it affected us in certain ways. And some people, when bad things happen to them, it makes them behave a certain way. Some people, they go, you know what, actually, I'm going to protect everybody else. And it makes them better people because they've had bad things. Some people victimize other people because they've been victims themselves. Sure. But I think what's happened to us, it's made us just better people. Creatively, it's been great. And that's why I see the brilliance in your music. And because you can't create that music if you don't have a beautiful kind of energy going on. The sounds, the things you're putting together, it's, you've got to see it and you've got to feel it. You've got to try to, and it's hard to put these things and make them work. So, and if you're somebody who's just got nothing but anger in you, you're going to create anger. So clearly you haven't got that, you put that aside. So that's why I was drawn to your music. And I thought, this is the black guy making this music, a black brother making this music. It's really, it was even more special because I understood the adversity that you would have gone through to be able to create it. So that's the name of the connection to get where I'm coming from. But I'm going to ask you another question because we're talking about this topic now. You wrote a song called The Life of Ruby Bridges. Okay. Why did you write that song? What's the song about and why did you write that song?
Ruby Bridges. This was very, this is one of those moments where I say that things come together, for a reason and just out of the blue. I was listening to an Apple podcast, just a random one, and it was about Ruby Bridges. I thought, Ruby Bridges. Ended up listening to the podcast, which was basically her talking for about 20 minutes. And I remember I was walking around work. I was trying to get my steps in on me, on me. I
was one of those things.
Yeah.
I know. I'm like, what are you doing? I've got to finish my 10,000 steps.
That's what I was doing, and I ended up walking around because I was just could not stop listening to this remarkable woman talking about her life. And basically, for anyone who doesn't know who she is, in I believe it was 1960, in about November time, she was living in Mississippi. She was born in Mississippi, but she was going to school in New Orleans. So obviously at that time, segregation was, it was still going on. It had actually just been it had been made illegal. But obviously, as you can imagine, schools in the state just didn't want any black children in their school, didn't want to know. But because it was then now against the law to have segregation, Ruby Bridges and about 5 other black children were given the opportunity to go to an all-white school. On the day Ruby Bridges actually turned up at the school, the other kids' parents decided not to send them because they knew it was going to be, it was just going to be awful. But Ruby Bridges turned up, and it was actually so bad. The FBI would escort her from her home to the school, up the steps, where she was met with absolute barrage of abuse. They had to, literally, the police had to hold back the lines and the crowds from people. There's one description where she says that she remembers getting out of the car with the FBI surrounded her, and she saw one of the women holding a coffin with a black doll in it, representing her. And once she got into the school, she actually realized that she thought that the first day she was there, she thought that she'd gone on the wrong day because there was no one in the whole school. It was just her and the teacher. And the teacher ended up being almost her second mum. Teacher absolutely adored her, loved teaching her. And for that whole year, it was just literally just her and Ruby. And I just thought, wow, what, I mean, it just inspired me, because I thought, how can a girl so young, you know, go through all that? And she ended up, her teacher ended up being her best friend, and years later, when she was, you know, she became a civil rights activist, they actually tracked down her teacher, I think it was on Oprah, and they got reunited, and it was just amazing. If you get a chance to check the actual meeting out.
I've seen, I've seen all this. I'm glad you're telling the audience, but I've seen all of it. Everything you're talking about, I've definitely seen, because I try to cover most of these things anyway. So Ruby Bridges, I definitely know the story of Ruby Bridges. So you wrote that song. That's what the song's about.
That just literally, it just came out, you know, completely. I mean, there's a track in it called "Completely Blind," and I just thought that just kind of sums up how some people are. They're completely blind.
They ain't got no soul, son. It's crazy, son.
There is a drought in my mind. My thoughts are covered in the sand. I try to find a water's hole, a river or an ocean gold. Who might help with what I seek? Can't believe it's so hard to think of one way out this heat. Drought in my mind, and the father's drowning me. Alright, completely blind, completely blind. There's still a drought in my mind, and the father's drowning me. Alright, completely blind, completely blind.
Yeah, I got to get on to the next question, but I'm glad that you did. I'm glad that you did, because obviously these songs are pivotal in terms of, like you said, the effect of that story meant you were showing that story to your daughter.
Yeah.
Other people hear the song, they get the message of it, they recognize Ruby Bridges lives on creatively in people's minds and hearts and minds, and they understand, you know, the depths of how much people felt. Because that's the whole point of it, isn't it? It's like, you know, ripples. And when you forget the journey or the story of somebody else, it's over. As long as it's reminded to people in some shape or form, she lives on.
Right.
So it's amazing. I get that. And that's why I want to bring to the other question, because I think these two things are connected. Black Lives Matter. Your support of Black Lives Matter movement. I mean, why are you supporting Black Lives Matter movement? I don't know if you're comfortable having asked this question, because not everyone is. Why are you supporting Black Lives Matter movement? And do you understand, or do you know that there are a lot of people that aren't as supporters of Black Lives Matter movement, and do you understand why they're not?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I think one of the main things you hear when people talk about BLM is all lives matter. You know, that's usually what you know. Oh, what is it? And of course, you know, it's so important that people realize that we're not saying that Black Lives Matter and no one else's matters, full stop. That's not the case, you know. If I can just paraphrase Billie Eilish, she put a post on Instagram, which I thought summed it up perfectly. So what she said was, I'm paraphrasing, saying it might not be quite, but she said, if you're in a house with your family and you live in a street with your friends and the whole street is on fire, you don't rush out of your house and try putting out the whole fire in the whole street. You get your family out your house first. you get them to safety, and then once that's out, once you've got your family out, then you try to tackle the bigger fire. And to me, that's exactly how I see BLM. You know, no one is saying that, you know, Black Lives Matter and no other lives matter, because you know is not the case. But at the moment, with what's going on, particularly in America and the police, they are systematically targeting, and it's really, it's so obvious now that they are, you know, systematically targeting Black teenagers, Black men, Black women.
Wow.
You need to get that in check, you know. I lived in Atlanta for 3 years, and living in Georgia, deep south, that was a serious eye opener. Honestly, I lived in Cobb County, and up until recently, early 1970s, Black people weren't allowed in Cobb County. It was actually against the law. And that was 1970s. I mean, I was born in 1970. So, you know, around the time I was born, that's only when they started letting Black people into Cobb County. So, and then to actually see the racial divide in America, you know, I mean, over here, it's, you know, it's America is a whole different ball game when it comes to, you know, the racial divide, especially in Georgia. I mean, which is, you know, the road I lived down, there was a Confederate flag hanging out one of the doors. There was loads of Confederate flags, had Ku Klux Klan memorabilia posted through the letterbox, and, you know, come to the Ku Klux Klan meeting and all this kind of stuff. And I was like, is this really real? You know, you can't see it on movies, and, you know, you can't, until you're actually in it, living it, you don't realize. And that, to me, and this was around the whole time that, you know, Trayvon Martin, you know, got murdered, and then it kind of snowballed from there. So to me, BLM is more about addressing this situation of, you know, Black men and women being targeted by police. I mean, I got stopped by a sheriff on my way to work in Atlanta. I tried to do some London driving in America, which didn't kind of work. And next thing I know, a sheriff behind me, and I was like, oh no. Yeah, honestly, I didn't know what to do. And I saw him. He drew his gun. He got out his gun. And I thought, oh man, what do I do? What do I do? I'm from Essex. What do I do?
So when he heard your accent, he must have thought, okay, because did your accent help you out?
That did help. He wasn't pleased that I was from England. He wasn't happy about that. It really is. Yeah, it really.
Was he thinking like they're actually importing Black people into Atlanta now?
You know what? I wouldn't be surprised if he thought that, because he really didn't like the fact that I was in his county. They see it like that, you know. You know, you're in my county, you know, kind of thing. You know,
sounds like Rambo. Sounds like First Blood. Do you remember First Blood?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
It's
pretty bad. And I think that's why I support this movement so much, because of the fact that I actually had first-hand knowledge of it. You know, there would be literally there would be, you know, like I said, I worked at Home Depot, and then these families would come in. And they would be caricatures of what I would expect. You know, they would have the t-shirts cut off there. Some of them had snakes around their neck. Some of them had, I mean, they all had firearms, you know. because in Kennesaw where I worked, it was actually against the law if you was a homeowner and you didn't have a gun. That was actually the law. Yeah, you actually had to have a gun if you was a homeowner. So all these things sort of made me think, wow, as a black man living in America, it is terrifying. It really is terrifying. I mean, I would I mean, sometimes I'll go to downtown.
So they've created basically, because I've got for the obviously for the audience's benefit, we're talking about the fact that we have a country that's created this environment where black people feel completely, you know, not part of it. Like this is what we're talking about. We're talking about hostile environment, realistically, that's been created and been ignored. But at the same time that's going on, I understand all of that, and don't get me wrong, it terrifies me to hear this stuff, because obviously I never put myself in the shoes of someone living in America, and we hear all these stories. You think, you see all the different sides of it. You see the other videos, because remember when they show a lot of these scenes where people die tragically at the hands of police officers. What you also get to see is the initial videos later on. It shows maybe a different side, there's a different spin to it. You think, okay, maybe that person may have actually done something to, you know, to bring about his own demise. So you're on different sides of it, and you see on the internet, it'd be so many different stories. There's literally people making a fortune out of showing the other side of that story, and therefore trying to make everyone think, you know what, I don't know what to believe anymore. I mean, I don't know whether these are supporters of Trump, and I'm not an anti-Trump fan, I'm not an anti-Trump anything, I'm not an anti-anybody thing. I'm just a guy in the middle of all of it, trying to understand it like a social scientist. But we can see there are sides where people are making money out of trying to push the other side of the story to confuse anyone who doesn't support Black Lives Matter. You understand? But you know, when I think about all of this stuff, I also think about, well, you're talking about what you've experienced, but think about the UK. People in the UK, they're thinking, well, England's nothing like that. We're not that racist. We're not capable, or we haven't been capable of that type of level of racism for decades. You know, we've learned. So it's like, why are you supporting something which is actually bringing the problems of America, you know, which we understand is a problem for all black people, all people, regardless. But you know, we're all people of the world, real people, anyone, you know, black brothers, white brothers, sisters, we're all experiencing it. Because like, you're in a mixed relationship, I'm in a mixed relationship. Our children are going to grow up and understand the history, okay, and think, whoa, what's going on? So, but you got to understand, potentially try to look at it from their perspective. We're in the UK. It's nothing like America, okay? There is racism, but not like that. Why are we basically divided? Why are we bringing something that's now, in their mind's eye, dividing us as people? Why are we behaving as if we're living that kind of persecution when we don't have that persecution? Do you understand what I'm saying to you? Why are we replicating these kind of images? Why, you know, I'm being honest, let's just think of it this way. Police officers don't persistently kill black people in the UK with guns. Okay, that's all I'm trying to say. So you can see why people, irrespective of the Black All Lives Matter, you know, issue or slogan, whatever, there is also the fact that they just can't understand why we're bringing the problem to the UK when there wasn't one. So that in itself might be causing this, like I said to you, this division where they're going, look what's happened. Black people have chosen to make a problem bigger than it needs to be in the UK. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I know what you're saying. I mean, I can understand that. But I think, sorry, my music just kicked in. Sorry about this. I think to an extent, I think supporting BLM in, whether it be over here or in Europe or any, I think there's ways and means of doing it. If you do it in a respectful and a peaceful way, then I don't think it creates a division. I think it's only when, I mean, what makes me sad is when people take it to the next level when they think, okay, let's go out and loot, let's go out and do this and that. Then I think I can understand why people will say, well, you know, why are you looting a shop down the road when this is happening 5,000 miles away? You know, so in that way, I can understand that it would bring, you know, a division.
But we know the problem is with everything. It's like when you're as a black person. See, until we change this idea of color, okay? Because the thing about color, unfortunately, it comes with its price.
Yeah.
What happens is that we know when, as a black person, when I see a crime being committed or heard of a crime being committed by black people in the UK, I feel that everyone's looking at me and thinking, oh, you know, you're just as bad as that guy. Do you understand me? So we all suffer that price. Similarly, in America, when we're going, these people are racist, the British police are going, hey, come on, not all police are bad. You know, Germans, I say, white people are going, we're not all bad. It's like everyone seems to take it on themselves as if they're all part of the problem.
Right, yes.
You understand? And they choose a side instead of saying, actually, it's nothing to do with us. And they would have expected us to feel the same way about Black Lives Matter. Say, well, it's not our problem. This is a problem for black people in America. But because we've gone and said, no, actually, it's our problem too. We can't blame white people in the UK to say, oh, our white brothers and sisters are black people to think, okay, well, here we go. You know, it's, you know, they're having a go at us, all of us. Do you understand what I'm trying to say to you? That's the issue. And that's why the divide, people start taking sides. And that's why we had the All Lives Matter thing, where they're going, well, what about us? You know, why we have, you know, we saw people on TV, commercials, black people on commercials, they go, oh, what about us? That, you know, these are our jobs that have been taken because they're giving that job to somebody else. That's my kid who's not going to get that job in that commercial. Do you understand? It's like, it's never explained. It's never explained well. And just like when black people came to the UK, you know, we came here on Windrush, they didn't say to everyone, guess what, guys? Got some lovely people from the Caribbean coming over. They're great cooks. You know, the great cooks, they're wonderful people, and they love us all. And they, you know, they've been they've been doing so much for our people for so long, and they're going to come and sort our country out. They're amazing. Let's give them a wonderful welcome. Like what they did when we came in the Second World War to fight, you know, to help protect. Everyone was like, whoa, wow, it's amazing. It's amazing music they bring here. And black and white people had a great time. In fact, more importantly, if you know your history, what, you know, the Americans were saying, we want segregation. The American soldiers were saying, we want segregation. And the British people were saying, actually, no. They rioted with black people, saying, no, these black people, these black soldiers did just like us. This is a part of our history that not many people know about. That's when people, you know, white people fought on the side. British whites fought on alongside black people, and also Mosley. You know, Mosley.
Oh yes.
But Mosley was coming out of all his stuff. Brits were like, hey, we're not having none of that. You know, we're not going to follow. And that's why they decided to go against fascism, because they'd seen what Mosley was doing, dividing people. So there's a lot of stuff. So how do we? So we're finding these ways. That's why a lot of British people go, hey, come on, it's a kick in the teeth. We've gone so far, and we're getting so far together, and all of a sudden now we're just saying we don't want to be a part of your team anymore. Do you understand? Or we've got it so bad. That's all. That's all I wanted to bring up. So I get what you're saying. I understand there's a definite reason, but it's kind of, and I'm not saying it. Don't think I'm saying this because don't think I'm black. It benefits me if Black Lives Matter. But I also see that there are still divisions within the black community that have been forming. So it's not just, you know, and that shouldn't be happening. It's happening because people, you know, you're seeing all these different groups coming up on Facebook and everywhere where people are saying black groups, this black, and of course you're gonna have white people saying, well, why shouldn't we have white groups then? You know, we're replicating America, but we should be an example for America. We should be like, we're better than this, and we should be an example of what it looks like. So that's why I love your music and I love what you've done. You're an example of look what can happen when you have someone who's born a black British guy who's gone through everything, but he's still got this beautiful incredible music and ideas, and look what's come out of it. It's gorgeous. Anyway, so I want to go back to your music again, because that's one of the things I wanted. We've had this has been deep, and it's great, and it's phenomenal.
No, it's good to talk about these subjects.
Yeah. But you know, also, but I want to come back to your music. So this is the last question. I'm going to go for it here. You have some incredible videos that definitely grab the attention. Okay, how do you come up with the visuals for each song? How do you decide? You know what, this song has to have this kind of thingy? Because I did when I watched that video, I was like, God, I couldn't imagine anything else going on there. But how did you decide that? But I didn't do it. I would have loved to have done that. I didn't do it. And I'm like, wow. So how do you get the idea and go, you know what, I've got to have these girls dancing on it. It's this ballet, ballet, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
I'm not very girly. I don't really know much about dancing. But you know, you get what I'm trying to say. How did you work that one out?
You know what? It's a very interesting question, actually, because when I've completed the song and you know, I've mixed it, and you know, it's done and dusted, and it's just sitting there, I then think, right, how do I want to represent this in the visual form, you know? Because to me, visual is very important, and maybe this goes again back to, you know, my acting and stuff, but I find, you know, visual almost as important as, you know, the actual audio. So with a song like I'm trying to think of an example, like Portals, you mentioned.
Definitely Portals,
which
but work on you's insane as well.
Yeah, that was the first proper choreographed you know, dance routine one I've done. But I always try to think of, I always try to not think of an obvious visual cue for a song. I mean, I'm saying that, but Work on You, because that was quite an upbeat dance track, I went with that video. But there's some tracks that I've done which the videos, people would think, I wouldn't necessarily have put that video with that music, which again goes back to what we were talking about earlier about not sitting on the, you know, not just sitting on the fence, not just going down the middle road, you know, deviate left or right, don't you know, don't get stuck in the lane, you know. So yeah, so I always try to think what visuals would go with this track, and then it's just a case of listening to the track in your head. I mean, what I tend to do is I tend to close my eyes and listen to the track and think what visuals would go with this, that not necessarily would be a traditional video. So I always think if you're watching a video that does this, but then your music's doing that, then you've got that contrast, you know, you've got that, you know. If you just have a stock video for a stock song, then you can go on MTV Base and watch that, you know. You know, you need to have a creative balance, you know, and to me that creative balance is having two different facets, you know, of the same, I mean, they're the same project, but they're two different, you know, two different aspects. One's left, one's right, you know.
Love it.
Yeah, and to me, I love videos like that. I love videos that challenge me, you know. It's like a film. I'm a film buff. I love films that challenge me. You know?
For another day, we should talk. So I love films, but not gonna have that now. But another day, trust me. Oh,
Tenet. We've got to talk about Tenet.
Oh man, there's some great films out there. But it's fun. You know what, Matt L. Barker, I have to end it there. But seriously, an absolute pleasure. Because we've been talking for a long time. It goes to show just how much we've been waiting to talk to each other, and how much we have to talk about.
Well, you know what? I've really appreciated it. I really appreciate it. You know, your interviews to me are very stimulating, you know. You learn a lot. So for you to actually, you know, interview is, thank you.
Well, fantastic. I can't wait to edit this and get it up. So, but you know what? A pleasure. Keep up the great work. And we will definitely do more of this. If there's one thing that you want to say to anyone or anything you want to plug, just please do now.
Just, you know, if you are thinking of, you know, getting into music, like I said, just be true to yourself. If you write a song or a melody and you think, oh, that doesn't sound commercial, doesn't matter. You know, it doesn't matter. You write what is in there, you know, whatever's in there will come out, you know, whether it gets streamed 100 times or if no one streams it. The fact that you've got it out and, you know, you made it your own and you made it true to what your vision of it was, that is all that matters, you know. There's film directors out there who've made films that are very personal to them, and they probably really couldn't care if they made $1 or, you know, was a box office hit. You know, it's all about making something personal to you. And if people pick up on that and it becomes, you know, it becomes a success, then more kudos to you, you know. But you should never compromise. That's what I would say. Never compromise. Never think, oh, I'm not going to write that. I'm going to write something safe and something. No. Never compromise. Always go with your gut. Always go with your gut. And so long as you put your heart and your soul into whatever you're doing, you know, and whether in music, anything in life, you know, as long as you put your heart and your soul into it, that's all people can, you know. You can't get more true than that. That's what I would say, you know.
Wow.
And talent will always shine through. You know,
Matt,
always.
I gotta say, Matt, seriously, you know, that was incredible. And I'll say why. So anyone, the audience, given the opportunity to say something, to plug something, and you went, what you did, you just basically just gave someone some advice. That's amazing. Says a lot about who you are as a person, my brother. Yeah. Really appreciate it as well. But yeah, and keep up the fantastic work. Matt L. Bark, everyone, Kate's Music. Thanks so much for your time. Have a fantastic night. And it is quite late, Matt, so you better get some sleep. I gotta get to work in the morning.
Me too, mate, but it's all good.
God bless Clusterview, my brother. See you soon. Thank you for your time. Absolute pleasure.
Take care.
Thank you, Bubba. Bye-bye.